So you guys remember when I told you the story that I get really nervous going to buy traditional dress wear for upcoming Lunar New Year because they're really majority of the time they're made for Asians, like Asian ladies that are in Asia who are immensely smaller than Asian Americans, right? And it gets really like nerve-wracking because, you know, culturally they don't really have a filter. They'll just be mean about it, you know. They'll call you fat and actually mean like in a bad way, right? Like trying to insult you by calling you fat. And it's just like usually it's always a very big ordeal. So recently I've been at least, you know, I went with my friend because she, who is like maybe like twice as large as me, 3 times larger than me, she's very well endowed. So, you know, naturally it's really hard for her to find a lot of traditional wear because in my culture, most ladies do not have large boobs. They're not well endowed. Or whenever we joke about like me being flat, right? Funny enough, actually, I have pretty like, if anything, I have generally larger boobs than most of the people I know in Asia. Most of the ladies I know in Asia. Like I wore my traditional dress today and my mom was like, oh, it looks like, is it just maybe your boobs got bigger or something? And I was like, this is the same size boobs I've had forever, but okay. You know, it's already hard to find really nice dresses made for my size, but because she's well endowed, she has to find like a couple sizes up, and they just don't make enough like nice pretty dresses, you know. It's always really like older dresses. It's really just like the fat phobia everywhere, essentially. So we went through like, we went 2 different days and we went through like, I can't even tell you, like probably like 30 stores trying to find something that, you know, will fit and look good. She finally goes back, right, to the first lady. Before they didn't even have those sizes, but now they do, luckily, right? It's just they don't have a really large variety. And those ladies weren't mean about it necessarily. I think only one of them was that, you know, she was like, oh, I want to try this on, and then she was like, you're not gonna fit that. And so we were like, yikes. But the rest of them are just like, yeah, sorry, these are the only ones that we have in this, you know, in a larger size, which is just understandable. The only thing also is that this culture, my culture, mothers aren't nice. Her mother's like generally mean to her. Her mother's the kind of person that's like, are you sure you want to go, you know, dress shopping? Like, aren't you just gonna be disappointed? Like, I think you're a little too big to go dress shopping. You know what I mean? She'll say it like that. We finally got like a really nice, you know, we got a nice dress for her. She said she really liked it. It was a pretty good deal too. And she went home and her mom saw it and was like, her mom saw it and she just told me that her mom wanted to go to the same dress shop that I took her to, that she bought this at, because her mom was like, oh, nice. But on top of that, I was like, oh, then I'm glad that like she liked it. You know what I mean? I'm glad she didn't make like a comment about how you wear this dress and, you know, like all that stuff. And she's like, no. Even with this dress on, my mom said, oh, it looks good on you, probably because you lost a lot of weight. And because we are cursed with being good, you know, good daughters, her mom afterwards then asked her, hey, take me to this dress shop, I want to buy one. And she's going to take her. Could not be fucking me. And I was like, I literally was like, you are doing the Lord's work. And she was like, I'm just trying to make sure I still have my ticket to heaven. And I was like, dude, look at me. Don't forget to look down and wave down to me when you're up there, okay, buddy? Because I'm going to hell and I don't give a shit. You understand? Because it could not be me. Now, the only reason I bring this up is because she just messaged me. She's taking her mom today to that dress shop, right? And she told her like 6 different times that it was this like random lady's house. She pulls up and she's like, why are we at Lily's house? For like the 6th time. And she's like, dude, I'm done with my mother. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. But it could not be me. Stream has been added to story time. I'm sorry. It's just like, I don't know. Lunar New Year is next weekend, and it's really big for a lot of people, right? And obviously, if you being Asian American is any kind of culturally American, being Asian American is already so tough, right? Because you're in that mixture of being like a mixed person, essentially. Like being mixed is really tough in the way that like if you were half Japanese and half, you know, Caucasian, it's like you're not Japanese enough, but you're not Caucasian enough kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And that being Asian American is the same way, in which it's tough because you try to continuously be a part of your culture, right? But it's hard for you to do that because you're not surrounded by it. Sometimes your parents don't even have the ability to share anything to you about it. You know what I mean? When they come to America, like for my parents, like the main thing they wanted to do was work really, really hard so they could basically survive. They had no, you know, I was just lucky that I was able to keep my language and keep a lot of my culture, including the food. And that had to do with me like visiting, you know, my home, my parents' like homeland often, because I'm privileged enough to have been able to go and visit. Yeah. But like a lot of my friends, they didn't grow up being able to celebrate Lunar New Year because their parents had to work. They didn't grow up, you know, being able to eat, you know, their culture's food because their parents took jobs that were just available out maybe in a lot of areas that didn't have Asian food. You know what I mean? And they would have to go work all day. So do you know what I mean? It's already so hard like that. And then something like this, just this big like rift against the older generation, you know, who's obviously rooted in crazy amounts of fat phobia. It's just, it makes it really, really hard. It makes it, and it makes it really hard for people to continue keeping on that. I think, and I know I'm not trying to stall, I promise, but it's like, I already got into this conversation. It's already so hard for us to continue to be really, you know, really a big part of Lunar New Year as being an Asian American. And this was a conversation I think other VTubers had to have, in which they didn't really mean to do anything, you know, harmful, right? But not everybody just has the privilege to be continuously educated on even their basic culture, let alone the current status of what their culture and their parents' homeland is like. And so many of us too were still made fun of being born in America. It really does feel like you're not Asian enough and you're not American enough, because we were still made fun of if we had an Asian name or if we ate Asian food, right? By American people. But if we like, you know, met other Asian people that were from Asia, essentially, it was very like, oh my God, you're so quote unquote whitewashed. You know what I mean? It was it's very hard. So I can like, now that Lunar New Year is coming up, I kind of just want to say this. It's like, I can very much sympathize with a lot of other Asian Americans who have a harder time. But if anybody wants to talk about like Asian American shit, you know, especially like Lunar New Year and that and all that stuff, like I'm very privileged to say I think I know a little bit about some Asian, you know, some at least like Southeast Asian cultures and stuff like that. If anybody wanted to sit down and ask or hang out about it, you know what I mean? And yeah, just being a minority is difficult. Because, you know, being a minority is its own thing. I think being a person of my culture is difficult, but I think what makes it the worst was being a female in my culture. Because the female perspective is completely different too.